Welcome, comic lovers. Old Comic Guy coming at you with another comic haul. This one is from another local comic shop. I do know how wonderful it is here in the Phoenix, Arizona Valley. We have multiple local comic shops. Pretty much like there's probably 5, not counting doubles where there's a store that has more than one location. Within 20 minutes of pretty much anywhere in the valley. There's probably a total of about 10 here. So we are in that way actually just wonderfully blessed. And I know that for some of you, your local shop may not be as close. So this is another local comic shop. I do want you to know that I feel for you. I have lived places where, well, there isn't a comic shop. This one is in Glendale. It is Drawn to Comics. It's been there for quite a long time, but it's not as old as some of the stores in the valley. We do have, I think Ash has for sure been around longer. Greg's has been around longer. There's other stores, though, that haven't been here as long as Drawn to Comics, so they have been quite a long time. And they were doing some stuff. They had some stuff in there, so I went in. I always go in pretty regularly. I've shared that. I check with stores just to see if they've gotten in any collections. Particularly, usually I'm looking for All-Star Squadron. I usually end up getting other stuff, and we're going to kind of get into what all I found. So first, kind of some fun, and it was for a good cause. So this is Amazing Arizona Comics. This is number 40. And it is a mini comic that's self-published by Russ. Man, I'm going to get this wrong. Kazmier's check Jr. And if I messed it up, I'm sorry. So this is starring some superheroes. He definitely tackles things that are particularly Arizona related. So he's satirizing Arizona news, history, culture, just a lot of the stuff we have here. So some of the heroes are June Monsoon, Speed Cameron, Dust Devil, Sambrero, and then of course they fight different types of villains that are also satirized in language, punning, and all that, as he evaluates and kind of makes fun of, not makes fun, but some of the stuff that's silly. Now this is, and I don't do this, so this is political in some issues. Some issues are not. But oftentimes he gets political, so I don't like collect his stuff or anything. But I do support, he was doing where he makes a comic in 24 hours. And he raises money for a local nonprofit, Kids Need to Read. And anything that gets kids reading is good for them. So I went ahead and picked it up, and I just thought it was for a good cause, and that's kind of the biggest reason. Now let's talk about some old comics, some fun. I did go with my wife. This was one of our date nights. So yeah, I ended up at a comic shop on my date night with her. That's okay. She's not a comic fan per se, but she does love some art. So I'll show you what I got that includes what she chose. First, what I chose. Well, no, not. It's all going to be mixed in. So, Detective Comics. Another 100-page deal. This is number 443 from 1974. It's got like 5 stories in it. Obviously, you can see the 5 people down below. It's got 5 stories. The cover's Jim Aparo, Tatiana Wood, and Gasper Saldiano. And then the editor is Archie Goodwin. And this is actually ending Archie Goodwin's about year-long run as editor and writer of Detective Comics. I think it was just something they were trying. I'm not quite sure why. It would go back to Julius Schwartz after this. So he was the editor of this particular book, and he wrote all the stories. So the first story is Archie Goodwin's the writer. The art's Walt Simonson, and if you are familiar, Walt did as much as he could. So he did the art, ink, coloring, like everything. I don't think he lettered it, but he did do like almost everything else. He might have lettered it. And this one is a Batman Manhunter story, which is the main story. It's the death of Paul Kirk, Manhunter. So there's some weird stuff about this Manhunter. So this is him here. This is him up here. And if you're familiar with the Golden Age, you know that there was more than one Manhunter. And there's actually more than one Paul Kirk Manhunter. I mean, only one that wore a costume. But so this Manhunter was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby for Adventure Comics number 73, back in 1942-ish. And he was originally named Rick Nelson. And you're thinking, well, 1942, Rick Nelson. Wait, was Eric Nelson born? Yes, Eric Nelson was born. Ozzie and Harriet's young child, Eric, was born in 1940, but he wasn't called Ricky. I mean, not publicly yet. He wouldn't be called that until the Ozzie and Harriet show, or The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, which didn't start until 1952. And then Ricky, or Eric Nelson, his nickname was Ricky at home, and that became his nickname on the show, which then, of course, carried over into his work as a musician. I mean, Ricky Nelson, right? Traveling Man and all the wonderful hits he had. That might be dating me. It's okay. It's beautiful music. Anyway, so his first story, he was named Rick Nelson, not because of the Ozzie and Harriet show. In his second story, they changed his name to Paul Kirk. So the second story, I think, was issue 74. The weird thing on that, and it's just kind of weird, okay? So there was a series called where there was a private detective named Paul Kirk, and the series was called Paul Kirk Manhunter. Now, he wasn't called Manhunter by anybody in the series, the comic series. He wasn't called Manhunter at all. He didn't do a costume. He was a private detective. These were private detective stories. They were running in Adventure Comics. They started about 1941, issue 57, 58-ish, and then ran all the way to issue like 72. Well, 1942, but this starts in 73. So it's odd that they would have used Paul Kirk. I mean, it could just be DC had the name. I'm not sure the reasoning. Anyway, they did. So this one has the death of this Manhunter, Paul Kirk. I also want to share that's the only current story. All the other stories are reprints. So let's talk about those. So the Spectre was in here. The story's Dr. Mephisto. It's by Jerry Siegel. And Bernard Bailey did the art. It's a reprint from More Fun Comics number 70. No. More Fun Comics number 65. The end of sports with the Golden Age Green Lantern, who was also in Gotham, so it kind of makes sense. I believe Jim Corrigan, I don't know where they said he was a detective out of, might have been Gotham too. So a lot of this kind of makes sense, but he was definitely out of Gotham. So this was the end of sports. It was written by Robert Kanigher and art by Alex Toth. And it was reprinted from All-American number 98. The cool thing about Alex Toth is Alex Toth, like, people don't realize, like, for me, like, he was, the morning kids shows that we loved were really because of Alex Toth. I mean, think about it. Not just did he create Space Ghost, the Herculoids, Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, Dino Boy in the Lost Valley. So many of our Hanna-Barbera things were created by him. He also had stuff to do with the original Super Friends that was out in the 70s. For DC, the three witches from the Witching Hour that appear in the first Witching Hour, those are his. Or he was the artist that assisted with the creation. Johnny Thunder, not Johnny Thunder the lightning bolt, or, you know, say you, but Johnny Thunder the Western Johnny Thunder. Who else? Roving Ranger, Rex the Wonder Dog. Lots of DC stuff too, right? So Alex Toth, long time. So that's this story. And then The Coming of the Creeper. Coming of the Creeper is a Steve Ditko story. So Steve Ditko wrote it with Don Siegel, and then Steve Ditko did the art. This is a reprint from Showcase number 73. And this is reprinting his first appearance, Creeper's first appearance. And then we have The Secret of the Hunter's Inn. That is the Batman Robin story. Joseph Samashin and Jerry Robinson. That's a reprint of Batman number 18. So pretty cool. I thought this was just an awesome find. And we've been kind of on my hauls. There's things I get, and you guys have kind of learned them. Those of you that are longtime viewers will know that I'm you know, if there's an All-Star Squadron, of course I'm going to buy it. Also, that the 100-pagers and those giants and king size, if I can afford them, I'm buying them. Some of them do get pricey, so that's not always the case, but I do tend to always get them. So my wife is a big Michael Turner fan. So Fathom is, of course, on the agenda. This is Fathom Beginnings. This is issue 1A. This was a one-shot. One of the things I liked about Fathom is they did put the letter, so you knew, like, oh, this is a cover I don't have. And so the writers, Michael Turner and J.T. Kroll. I think most of the Fathom stuff was written either Michael Turner or J.T. Kroll. This came out in 2005. It was published by MLT, Aspen MLT Inc. And this and the next one will kind of launch the second Fathom series. The cover art is Michael Turner and Peter Stegwald. And then the art inside is Michael Turner and Jason Gorder. So this one, and it was a one-shot again. And then the Prelude, this is also a one-shot. This is cover B, 1B. Obviously, Michael Turner did the cover with, again, Peter Stegwald. The art inside is Ale Garza. Michael Turner and J.T. Kroll wrote it. There were 7 covers of this. On this other one, there was only 2 covers. We're going to see that this is why I call some of this stuff the cover age. I know precious metals is what we've been using. but then we kind of ignore it certain times. Copper's not really a precious metal. Bronze isn't even a natural metal. So we can kind of ignore it and call it a cover age. Let's see. So these two would launch the second series, which ran in 2005 to 2006. Issue numbers were 0 to 11. I don't know how many covers, though. There was just so many. So this is 6A. So cover A. Again, Michael Turner, J.T. Krull are the writers of this whole series of Volume 2. Coy Turnbull with Don Ho and Jason Gorder is the artist inside. Coy Turnbull and Jason Gorder did the cover of this one. And then I have 9A again, an A cover. Same stuff, except for the art is Coy Turnbull with Marcus Toad, Jonathan Glapion, and Sal Regla. And then the cover is Jonathan Glapion with Coy Turnbull. And then we have 11A. Same writing. This one has Coy Turnbull and Sal Regla doing the cover. So pretty awesome. These are all 2006. It did start in 2005. And then we move on to Volume 4. She picked them. Okay. Okay. She likes them. We have some stuff that was signed by him. And so, yeah. And he was taken from us way too soon. He was an amazing artist. So, yeah. So this is Volume 4, Issue 4. This is Issue 4C, which would be the retailer exclusive cover. This is after Turner's death in 2008. 2008. I'm gonna go with 8. It's right around there. I'm thinking it's 8. So this one is written by Scott Lobdell. Alex Connaught did the cover and the art inside with Corey Smith. And then I also have number 7B. We've now got a new writer. This is written by David Wohl with Scott Lobdell. And Alex Connaught did the art inside, but he didn't do this cover. This cover is Pasquale Qualano. I hope I said that right. So that's 7B. And then, and this was Volume 4. So 2011, 2013, numbers were 0 through 9. I don't know. Again, I don't know how many covers. There was just so many. And then we have the last Fathom that she chose. This is number 8B. This is the 5th volume, issues 1 through 8. So this is the last issue. This is 2013, 2014. I don't know how many covers of every issue. I believe that the first one, in this case, it did issue 1 to 8. And I think issue 1 had a crazy number, like they were trying to do the alphabet. Like it was past, like I know it was past H, which just seems ridiculous to me. Writers David Wohl and Frank Mastramo. And Frank Mastramo has been the editor on most of those Fathom books that I've already shown. The art's Alex Connaught, John Urquhart, and Mark Roslin. And then the covers, Guinevere Broomhall and Wes Hartman. So pretty cool. Like I said, she is a Fathom fan, so she went with me. She gets to choose what she wants. And then this. Now, this has a lot going on, and then some stuff you may not know. So let's see if I can get all this right. So this is Justice League of America Annual 2. It's from 1984. It's written by Jerry Conway, arts by Chuck Patton and Dave Hunt. First appearance of Justice League Detroit. First appearance of Gypsy, Steel, Hank Haywood the third, who's the grandson of Commander Steel, Vibe, and of Dale Gunn. Gypsy had already been shown, Zatanna, all these other people had been shown. So, what you may not know, and what most of us don't think about, is the letterer. And you say, well, why am I bringing this up? And, well, so an interesting story about this letterer. This is Ben Oda. Ben Oda had been lettering comic strips and comics for years. He was DC's go-to guy. He passed shortly after this, the end of this year. So this was in 84, and then he passed, I think it was the end of 84, so November-ish. He was known, so there's a wonderful tribute given by Andrew Helfer, who was an editor at DC, and it was in the June 1985 books for DC. All of them had it in there, and it was a tribute to Ben, and like, he was an amazing individual. Like, I guess he like regularly showed up at 4:30 with just a stack of lettered pages. And if you needed a book lettered and it needed to be out tomorrow, you gave it to Ben so you could have it the next day. Now, we should know about who Ben Oda was. He was a Japanese American. He began his lettering career at Walt Disney Studios. During World War II, he served with the 442nd Combat Team. If you're not familiar with the military, that is the most decorated unit in U.S. history. Predominantly made up of second-generation Japanese Americans whose families were in relocation camps. That's not what we called it. What did we call it? In Japanese internment camps here in the U.S. So while their families were here, and actually I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and Sackatone, just south of us, you can still see the remains of where, I don't think anybody uses the buildings anymore, but some of the buildings are still standing. Not only did we have one there was one, I believe, out by Yuma. There was one up here. Yeah. So, and the Japanese Americans who were born here might have lived in California. They'd get moved out here. Might have lived in Detroit and they'd get moved out here. It didn't matter. They had to be relocated. And that's pretty crazy. He was a paratrooper, a spy, while he was there during the war. It was the unit was actually formed in 1943. And particularly, they asked for volunteers. But when they got over 1,000 volunteers, they realized they had a problem. That's way more people than would be in the unit. So it's pretty amazing. Let's see. So let's talk about what he did as a letterer, right? So he was a letterer for King Feature Studios, Chicago Tribune Syndicate, King Feature Syndicate, Chicago Tribune Syndicate, right? Every syndicates sound like mobs. That was just making fun of it, just in case they're connected. I don't want any flack. He lettered strips like Little Orphan Annie, Flash Gordon, The Phantom, Prince Valiant, Steve Canyon, pretty much everything they did, he lettered. There's way too many. I mean, just pick one, assume he did it. In comics after the war, so some of that was before the war, so, and then afterwards that's where he went, and then he graduated into comics. He worked for Hillman Periodicals, EC Comics, Harvey Studio, DC Comics with Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, pretty much everyone at EC and DC. So Kurtzman, was it Kurtzman? Yeah. But not only that, he trained these people, so many people. In Andrew's letter thing that he tribute, he talks about Tom Orzechowski's delight over meeting him and how he worked to model his lettering style off of Ben Oda's. Bob Lappin literally studied, well, he's not the only one. So Bob Lappin and Bill Yoshida studied under him. And Bill went on to be Archie's, like Archie Comics for MLJ. Well, actually, it was Archie Publications by the time he came in like 65. And he was the same way, 65 pages, 75 pages every day, just bam, bam, bam. He would letter and letter and letter and just show up, bring them in, go back with the new stack. Just continuously. He lettered like most of Archie's stuff. And Tom and Bob were big letterers at DC Comics. Like, people forget how connected people are. I should mention that Ben's wife, Nishi, I may be pronouncing that wrong, and I'm sorry if I am, Nishi Yoda, was also a letterer. And the family, after he passed in 1984, went ahead and created a Oda Balloon, which is a free typeface that anybody can download. The problem with here's the thing, he wasn't super fast. He would spend long, late hours doing this. And when an editor gave him a book at the last minute, hey, I need this done by tomorrow. And he was your go-to guy. They knew he could do it. But it does mean, and if you're really careful and you've read a lot of DC, which I have, there are times that you can find where Batman fought a wart on crime. Oops. And notice how we kind of pick up on those things, right? We can notice, we're quick to notice somebody's mistakes, but we're really not quick to give them praise for everything that they've done. Anyway, I think it's amazing that he did so much. Some more stuff I found. So I'd been wanting to talk about Ben Oda, and then I found that book and I knew he'd done it, and I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about it. Some other stuff. So Batman's One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul. This is part of the one-shots from the Batman's One Bad Day, which were always a villain type thing. This came out 2023, so this is relatively new. I don't want you to think this isn't new. I just saw it. Written by Tom Taylor, arts Ivan Reyes and Danny Miki, covers Ivan Reyes, Danny Miki, and Brad Anderson. So that's cool. And then these were kind of beat up, but they were still pretty cool to find. So this is Peter Parker, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man Annual. This is number 5 from 1985. It's written by Peter David, arts Mark Beacom and Joe Rubinstein, and inside and on the cover. First appearance of Ace, that's him, the Reapers and the Dragons, the two gangs that fight. And I believe Ace shows up either right in the next annual or in 2 annuals after this again. And he's done to kind of look like I always think of him as like a cross between Michael Jackson and Prince when they draw him on the covers. That isn't necessarily the way the character acts, but that just seems to be the way they wanted him to go. I also found XMen Annual. So this is number 10. Covers Arthur Adams, Terry Austin, and Danny Crespi. The writer's Chris Claremont. The art is Art Adams and Bob Wiacek. The colorist, so I mentioned Tom already. Wait, so the colorist was Glynis Wynn, or Oliver. I think she's Glynis Oliver at this point. This is 86. I think her and Len Wynn were divorced at that point. Maybe not. Anyway, she was, I know they got divorced in the 80s, but I don't know exactly when. Anyway, they were married, and she was a colorist. And then this is actually lettered by Tom Orzechowski, who had studied under Ben Oda. Now, this is one I kind of need your guys' help with. So there's some other interesting stuff. First, it's edited by Louise Jones, who was also Louise Simonson. Walt Simonson, we'll mention back from Detective, where I mentioned Walt Simonson. Okay, so Louise Jones is Walt Simonson's wife. She went by the nickname Wheezy. Okay, so in this story, it's set in the Mojo. They're fighting Mojo, and this is kind of the first appearance of the X-Babies, even though they're not called X-Babies in this, because the X-Men are de-aged. But in this, there's an audience where they're watching in a movie theater and watching the Mojoverse. And the characters' name are Walter, Wheezy, Walter and Louise. Okay, got it. Carrie and Alfie. I don't know who Carrie and Alfie are, but I think they're a nod to someone in the comic community, like the creators, but I don't know who. If you do, please, in the comments, let me know. I love learning stuff from you guys, and I would love to know this. It's not in great, it's not like falling apart, but it's not in great shape. Neither was the Spider-Man. These are kind of rough. At best, they'll be good, but that's okay. And then I also found, because, right by it, XMen Annual, number 12. There's 3 stories in here. This does have the first official appearance of the X-Babies in the second story. The first story is part of the Evolutionary War event. And these are, again, written by Chris Claremont. At least the first 2 are written by Chris Claremont. Art is Arthur Adams and Bob Wiacek. The cover on this one, though, is Art Adams and Rich Parker, and Bob Harris is the editor. Luis is not editing this one. The third story is the origin of the High Evolutionary that was running through all of the annuals at this time, and this is part 7 of it. And it's written by Mark Grunwald. Ron Lim did the art with Tony DeZuniga. Yeah, so that's my haul from Drawn to Comics. They're off of Glendale Avenue and I don't know, east of 59th Avenue. But I don't know exactly how far east. a couple blocks. It's not very far. It's really in downtown Glendale. And again, if you know who, from this one, who Carrie and Alfie are supposed to be, I would love to know. Or just give me a guess. I don't know. I don't know even how I'd find out. I did look, and I really looked and couldn't find out. So anyway, that's my haul. You guys have a good day. Take care of each other.